idea of knowing where your student is where your teaching starts. And we realize that whenever we are talking about what to be done, the basic understanding of why it is to be done is missing. They do not know where the student is. They don't have to transact just the textbook, they have to teach the student. Just like we are trying to know where you are. We are asking what are your pain points so that when you are here, we can map it up with the right kind of an expert. So most of our exercise in last 3-4 years is about getting down to the basics, because once you have completed that, we can always pull you up. But if those basics are missing, whatever we are talking at the top would not be materialized because those basics are not clear. It happens with every student. So this has been mostly our journey. So we started experimenting with certain schools, and this happened when we were working in a school in Gujarat. It is my euphoric movement. My professor, like Professor Rajaram says, okay, still it is, we have a long way to go. But this is when I realized personally that yes, we have achieved something. So to you it looks some ordinary circuits which students have created. But to me the defining point was that this chapter electricity was not started. The teacher executed the previous lesson, which was light, in such a way that when she said that the next lesson would be, the next chapter is electricity, students read the entire textbook, read the illustrations and examples in the NCERT and created this beforehand. So our entire dream statement of student being responsible for their own learning, student leading the way, and teacher acting as a coach and giving them the direction. That happened there. So I thought whatever we are doing, it is giving us some results. So with this confidence, we started doing it in some other schools, the schools which I showed you. But we started from the basics, and we have a long way to go. All this research would be a part of everything which we think should be told. We want to bring it in this conference. So this conference is kind of a showcase of the entire journey, whatever we have researched upon, some of the case studies who have worked along with us. So we are trying to showcase it here. Advanced research, point number 2, is something which we all feel very good talking about. If I say advanced pedagogical models and high impact teaching strategies, everyone will feel good about it. But we realize that it is important to talk about the fundamentals as well. Because this is one thing which we found missing everywhere. We start with certain assumptions, but we realize that the fundamentals are missing. So let's refresh them once again. Of course, we will talk about advanced research. Professor Pushpanathan is here. We will talk about the artificial intelligence. They are the advanced things. But we will have Professor Rajaram, Dr. Vidya, who will talk about the fundamental parts, which we should always keep in mind, without which the advanced things will not work. We have invited one of the schools, Sandeepni School, which is working with us for last 1 year, to present a case study. It is very important for academic leaders and founders both. So we have invited them to give a version of their journey to both these stakeholders. Because when you start with a very ambitious project, management wants some results. But when you start facing resistance from teachers, from the status quo, then you should know that it will not be an easy thing. Then of course, there are lectures and workshops where you would get to discuss the same thing with the same people in a in a detailed manner. So this is about what we have brought for the academic leaders. The conference flow is on your mobile. The print came yesterday at 3 a.m. and there were glitches in it. So you can work for weeks, but at the last moment the software can ruin everything. So I'm telling this to remind myself that I'm not control of everything, neither are you. We will get it reprinted and we'll give you something by 11:30 before you have to read everything and decide. So this is for academic leaders. Now I will talk about the founders part, and I'll go back to my journey. I got really happy about the way students are responding to our training programs via teachers. And we know the constraints of a founder or a school leader. They experience a pushback from teachers who think that we are going to change the way they are working right now. And sometimes they cannot sustain it, because we promised them that a change would happen in a year. And a year is a long time for them to put their patience and money into it. And we have so many more experiments which we want to do, because we keep on discussing things and we keep on coming up with new things. My latest focus area is how school and parents communicate with each other. I have been to PTMs of my own child, and I know how they are and how can they be improved. But we need a place where we can do all those experiments freely. So we started dreaming about this. That can we have a school of our own where we can do all those experiments and train the teachers with the kind of patience it requires, because it's a teacher, it's an individual who think they can teach, but B.Ed has really not added any scale to that. So when we thought that can we have a school, we started looking at schools. Jagminder sir is here. We speak to him, can we have a school where we can do something of this kind? We approached Rajesh sir as well. And then we realized that having a school or owning a school, what kind of complications it has. The finances, the legalities, the compliance and everything. We had all these people with us for a very long time. You will see them on the stage. But we never had our focus towards what it takes to become a school founder or a school owner. So that's when we introduced another vertical, which is for school founders. And we reached out to Dr. Snehal Pinto, Dr. Anirudh Gupta, Mr. Ankur Mishra, lot of school founders in our network, and we asked them to help us design this thing. And that's when we created this leg. And this next 2 days we'll be talking about admissions, taxation, legalities, branding, funding, whatever is the priority area for a school founder. So that's how the conference is evolving. Of course, there are some common sessions. Artificial intelligence is something which no one can claim that they have experience of. Usually the one statement which act as a wall to us, and that's when we know that we can't do much about it. When someone starts saying that I have experience of 25 years of doing this work, what would you teach us? So the whole journey of learning something starts from this statement that I don't know. So I have just taken it from Raja. But AI is something which none of us know, and both the stakeholders have to know. The founders as well as academic leaders, because very soon you will start getting people, vendors, students who start claiming that we must introduce AI. So not only you should know what AI is, but you should also know the boundaries. And of course, some dose of inspiration and motivation, which was our original work. We were asked to come and motivate teachers. So we are still keeping a shred of that. Tomorrow we have our future astronaut Mr. Anjan Pratap and world record mountaineer Satyadeep coming in the morning, sharing some tips of fitness with you because fitness is required for everyone. We have tried to create a balance here. Practitioners, you are practitioners and you have a train to run day in, day out. You have fires to doze off, so you really can't go back and do research. Research is a prerogative which professors have, or there are companies who are working in that one particular area. So we have invited all those people so that we can get views from all of them. Founders versus academicians. While you will listen from founders how difficult it is to create a school and run a school, we have also invited some practitioners who would give you the opposite view. There is a session by Aarti, Matthew and Susan, who have seen schools abroad and have spent enough time in India, and they will give you their version of what happens when a founder becomes too pushy. Every one of us has spent time in school. That doesn't make us an educator. There are founders who have spent time in school, have not learned education professionally, but because they carry weight, sometimes they start talking academics. How established academicians feel at that time, we want founders to hear that bit as well. So that would happen tomorrow. So we wanted to create a balance where you should get views from every side. So now the basic rules. You are at auditorium 1 right now. It's level 1. Auditorium 2 is also on the same floor. Room 1, 2 and 3 are on level 3. For that you have to hit 3 on the lift. I have not written here to demean you. There are different terminologies in this building. The lift goes by the levels, but actually it's the different floor. So this is level 1, but ground floor. Lunch and tea is on level 1 and 2. Same menu. 1 cup of tea and 2 biscuits during tea. You won't find much difference whether you go upstairs or downstairs. We would know who is more fit by seeing who has come to first place. There are lucky draw coupons in your kits. We have introduced this to ensure that some of you go to the sponsors or the exhibitors as well. They are good people. They would gag you and get money out of your pocket. Please give them a minute or two. And we will have lucky draw out of this. You have to be here at the time of lucky draw if you want to receive that gift. So with this, I will end my session. I have taken 6 minutes extra. So now I will request our guest for the inaugural session to come on the dais. I'll start with Dr. Snehal Pinto. 2009 onwards, Madam Grace Pinto has been a part of it. And then she gave the baton to Dr. Snehal. Professor Rajaram and Professor Harish Shah. One common thing about all of them is that they have been with us since 2009. this. After one time, Rajaram sir has led the academic part of it. And Snehal has always been here to help us, support us whenever we need it financially. And also, whenever we need data to do, whenever we want to do some of our experiments and see how it has come out. Because there are many schools, there are teachers, there are students. We keep on going to them, can we do this with some of your teachers and see how it goes? So they have been our test lab for last 1.5 decades. So now I would request each one of them to come and talk about the conference, the journey, what they expect others to do for the next 2 days. So I'll start with Dr. Sneh.
Good morning, dear educators. You're not just educators for me, you are catalysts in this nation and history makers. And it is my honor and privilege to be here at the Educarnival 2025, where the theme is about making a dream school dream. I promise you, firstly, at the outset, as I always do, having followed my parents, I'd like to just thank Christ for this opportunity. To have come this far, to enjoy this gift called life. I'm just grateful. So, I stand before you in humility and grateful surrender because I'm here to learn as well. I'm a part of the team that continues to build brand. And I love the theme of making the dream school dream, but I promise you, it is anything but a dream. When you have to deal every day with all kinds of scenarios and situations and people. But what makes it worthwhile is that through the journey, there are some constants. And that you don't negotiate, that you don't devalue. And a part of the core of any team is people. Processes, principles, values, systems, all that is a given. But if I've learned anything in watching the journey over the past 25 plus years, is that it is people that matter. And I'm grateful on behalf of Christ for Sir and Ma'am, of course, for their vision and commitment in just doing what they had to do to build this nation, one life at a time, one school at a time. But more than anything, it's empowering, trusting people, training them, equipping them. And I'm grateful for our people here. Many of them have been with us from when I started off as a teacher. And I can say that because Sudha Miss is here. She's the one who came when I started off as a teacher and trained us as a group in Bangalore. And if I've learned anything, like I said earlier, it's about investing in people. It's not about being transactional, it's about being transformational. You don't build an ecosystem overnight. Can I just say a disclaimer at the outset? The Ryan Group is still evolving. It's still learning. We are still growing. And I think that is what makes it exciting for us, that we are a part of a learning ecosystem. Every day. Every day. And at the end of every day, we take that time to just be grateful. Because it is a miracle, I promise you, when over 3,000 lives get home safely, where over 20,000 families are fed well, and even in times of crisis, everyone is sustained. So I'm very grateful as I stand here. Our association with Educarnival started around
2000,
similarly
2009.
in 2010, I believe,
Nine.
and 2009 or
Nine.
10, and I was in Bangalore, and when ma'am said, this is an association we will forge and we will continue because this helps us learn and grow. You see a testament to it. All of our principals are here from the North region. We stand with Professor Chaudhary and Professor Rajaram, and of course Himanshu. I've seen him grow and evolve as well. It is a joy and honor to be associated with Educarnival at IIT Delhi because it also we have learned, we have seen, we have been a part of the best practices. And I love the fact that this community is about learning from one another. Was it the same about 28, 30 years ago? Was it the same about even 15 years ago? Not so. But I think there's a mindset shift at work, that we are not in this alone, that we don't have to be working in silos, because if we help each other grow and our children shine and flourish, it's a legacy and a testament unto the efforts that the generation before went by. So, nice to see you, ma'am. So, may I just encourage you in this next 2 days? We are not here to compete with each other, although the market hopes and expects us to be competitors. We are here to collaborate and learn with and from each other. Keep an open mind. Why? Because that is the first step to learning anew, to unlearning the old, to even relearn something a different way. But do not deviate from what makes you an owner or a founder or an academician. What makes you you? Our values, our principles, our faith, that anchors us in anything and everything we do. And it keeps us humble for sure. So I invite you to this journey of learning over 2 days. You will have stalwarts coming, you will have learners coming on board, but keep an open mind. We are not here to judge one another, we are to learn with one another. So I wish you all the best over the next 2 days as we undertake this journey of learning, unlearning, relearning, but building together so that our nation is benefited and the next generation becomes a dividend, not a disaster. God bless you. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Wow. This is the one that goes. I prefer my hands free. Good morning, everybody. I'm really happy to be here, excited to be here, seeing a lot of old friends, acquaintances, reunion. I called up Mukta ma'am yesterday and said, "Ma'am, आप पहुंच जाएंगे समय पर?" She says, "हाँ, तभी तो मिलते हैं." Occasion to meet. I had put the alarm on my phone at 11:12 because Himanshu not only overshot 6 minutes, he assumed that transition will take 0 time. It did not. But then this has become redundant because Rajaram sir pushed me and he said, "Pehle tum bolo." So now I don't know when to stop. So Himanshu, can you stop me at 11 so that we have at least 12 minutes for Rajaram sir? Just wave your hands. I was going through my notes, but before I do that, a small disclaimer. Himanshu suggested that Professor Harish Chaudhary knows how to motivate teachers. 16 years back, I thought so.
It took me about 4 months to realize that that was wrong. And took me some more time to understand that nobody can be motivated. They can be empowered. Motivation is a chemical reaction that happens by itself. It's exothermic. I'm a chemical engineer. Unfortunately, most of us understands Newton's laws of motion. And we believe in the first law, which says everybody continues to be in a state of rest unless an external force applied to him or her, as the case may be. That doesn't work, because there's something called friction. Unfortunately, we learned friction after we learned Newton's laws. Or memorized Newton's laws, I don't know whether we learned it. Einstein struggled with the equation. Great people struggle with simple things. I'm told Einstein struggled with the equation, why is 2 plus 2 equals 4 for over 10 years? These days children know it by heart. Einstein didn't. And then came in much later a great behavioral scientist, Kurt Lewin. I'm entering the first domain. Please don't correct me if I'm wrong. Do it over time. Who struggled with something more basic than that. And he said, is 1 plus 1 actually equal to 2? Is it really equal to 2? Can it be 2 plus or 2 minus? And he came to a conclusion that if there is synergy, 1 plus 1 is greater than 2, and if there is asynergy, it will be less than 2. In some cases, it can even be minus 2. He is considered the father of group dynamics, teamwork, creating a dream team. But yes, as Dr. Snehal Pinto, and 16 years later we knew her as Snehal. In the process, she has become Dr. Snehal Pinto and also has a fancy designation. And she said, we are still learning. And whereas I am going to request all of you, without knowing, to embrace artificial intelligence. Some of you remember we had a virus 15 years back called CCE. We all quickly embraced it. Anybody who said we are not using CCE was like, what's wrong with you? So now, if you teach mathematics, if you teach English, it has to be with AI. So please start saying, if somebody asks you what you teach, you say, I do computational mathematics with AI. That's important. These words bring respectability. Couple of years back, more than a decade back, I looked back at these conferences and I was asking myself what made it happen. So I'm going to read out a small para to you, which I wrote about 10 years back or 8 years back. And we published it in our conference proceedings, which we used to do regularly till COVID hit us, and also we found that people have started, I went to the library yesterday, IIT library. It looks beautiful. It looks like a brand new showroom because no books get borrowed. Everything is digital and nothing can be read unless the student is in his bedroom with the TV on and the laptop also working something, and then puts on, with one ear he's listening to some music, the other ear is trying to see what happened in the lecture. So those were the days we used to print. From the Gangotri glacier flows the Bhagirathi, meeting the Alaknanda at Devprayag. Those of you who have been to Garhwal may have seen this confluence. And the Alaknanda has probably 10 times more water than what the Bhagirathi has. But however, from there, it becomes the Ganga, the holy, the pious, the life-giving Ganga. As it flows downstream, the Yamuna, the Ghagara, the Shon, the Mahanada, the Chambal, the Gandak and the Kosi And all other rivers pour all that they have into the Ganga. Not to mention the Brahmaputra. Those of you who have been to Guwahati and seen where Brahmaputra, it's a far mightier river than the Ganga is. And of course, these days we must also consider Saraswati. We don't know where it meets the Ganga, but it probably does. Just about each of these rivers are mightier than the original Bhagirathi. Is Bhagirathi the real Ganga? That's the way it is with life. Our lives are made up of the loving and untiring efforts of hundreds and thousands of people, living or dead, who perhaps are unaware of all that they have given us. That's how this movement started. 16 years back, and remember the very day in the other convocation hall where Snehal was there with us. We had not imagined that we'll reach this point. But the energy in that room and the energy in this room has kind of propelled us on. So once again, I want to thank all of you for making this, if I may now say, a movement happen. In the process, we have grown. Not old, but in terms of knowledge. 16 years back, this was grey hair, originally. Now it is L'Oreal grey hair. Artificial. Himanshu got married in the meantime. And I was fond of saying that everybody must get married. It's very important. Because you can't keep blaming the government for everything. We have to do things ourselves. Build teams. There's that old adage which says that if you want to feed a person, give him a fish. If you want to feed him for life, teach him how to fish. In the short run, we need sales. We put in our money, time, effort, energy. And for some of us, for those of us who've been an initial startup venture, I keep telling my students, be very careful with startup. Because if your startup fails, then marriage gets very difficult. We have to recover our funds. Money is the lifeblood of any business, any activity. We have to be profitable. Notwithstanding the government of India dictum that if you have land and if you have money, build the infrastructure and give it to us and then go home. India is very fortunate. In his famous book, The Beautiful Tree, by James Turey, which is a title he copied from Dharampal, the original Beautiful Tree, and he studied schools across 12 countries, he says that the non-government schools will always perform better because of the entrepreneurial zeal behind it, because of the commitment of life behind it, which you and so many of you here have founded the schools, have felt. We respond to the marketplace, we respond to the trends, we respond to technology. I'm standing here on a podium in a room in an institution owned by the government of India, and I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of it. But then the challenges are very different. We know it. You are the people who cater to what I call the aspiring middle class. And it's the aspiring middle class which will take the society forward. They will take the challenges. These are the children who will give you professionals, who will give you innovators. We see it every day in these classrooms. The development of a society, a nation, a community is directly related to the performance of its school systems. IIT could not have performed unless you perform, because you give us the raw material to work on. At the same time, we need to teach our students, we need to educate them, but we need to also ask ourselves a fundamental basic question: what is education? I'm sure each one of you ask this every other day. The classical approach, the definition which Delhi government picked up from Ofsted, to make a child into a healthy, happy, productive citizen. Now, the sequence could vary. For some, productivity may come before happiness. There is no direct correlation between the amount of money one earns and the degree of happiness. But there is a correlation. In a country like ours, productivity is very important. But beyond that, the building blocks, the basic blocks, as Himanshu was suggesting, the foundations, and I'm categorical about it, has to be values. We teach science. All science is value neutral. It's the person behind the science who gives it the direction. Nuclear energy can be used for positive purposes and also for negative purposes. We need to train our children to stand up for their rights and then to stand up for everybody's rights. We need to make them confident, but above all, we need to make them good human beings. The cracking the exam concept is for the coaching classes. They work on how to crack the exams. We build the JEE, they crack them. And often they crack it even before we build it. But that's not our domain. Our domain is to make human beings. Excellent education without values will result in making world-class criminals. And we started from that point. Our first conference was in 2009, but preceding that, we had a small get-together of about 12 school leaders like this in Missouri. And Brother Goldamni walked in from St. George's. I repeat it every time. So those of you who've been here have heard it many times. But I think repetition is also relevant. And as I said that time, I had genuine grey hair and he had white. So he walked in, he said, Mr. Chaudhary, I have a question. I said, sir, my questions are there on the board. He said, I'm senior to you, me first. I said, right, sir, please come in. And he said, he asked his 12 school leaders, when a little child comes to our school, they come like little angels and fairies. When they go out as little devils. What are we doing? We need to ask ourselves, what are we doing? Data scientists, data analysts tell me that the future of our economy can be predicted. We have this Moody's index and so on, which keeps looking at data and saying India is growing at 6.72% GDP or 8.1 or 3.7, etc., etc. No, I'm not an economist. And therefore, in 2030, we will be the fifth largest economy or third largest economy. In 2047, something else will happen. And by we are the Vishwagurus because our GDP is growing. Great. But I'm confident, and Rita ma'am will correct me as to who said that. If you want to look at what a nation would look like 25 years from now, you need to look into the classrooms. And that is what we build. So that's my request. I don't think I'm disagreeing with Himanshu. We always disagree. I don't think too much will happen. There will be ideas put around, they will be thrown around. Some you will catch, some you will miss. Some will get back home, some will not. But excellence is a journey. We have named this conference Educarnival, Excellence in School Education, and not quality. Because quality is a landmark. Quality can be achieved. Excellence is the road, and we march on. Thank you.
I thought I was very clever and chose the strategic part of pushing the others first. And they thought they should be magnanimous to me and have left 14 minutes with me. So I'll try and last that. The testimony to our journey is Himanshu. 2009, he would hesitate to come onto the stage. He would hesitate to use the word education. He was mortally afraid of that. But today, I have to keep telling him, don't use up all my jokes, don't use up all my words, don't use up all the things that I wanted to say. If that is any evidence, then people can be nudged, people can be pushed. And that's the hope that drives all of us in setting up institutions where we believe that people entering in, not even able to stand on their feet, not even able to sort of, say a few words fluently, would end up, maybe not as devils, but certainly as competent people who would do well in their own lives and do well for the nation, for the world. The word motivation that Himanshu started off with and Harish went and expanded on it, in my opinion, is a sort of double-edged sword, a dangerous sword. The doctor who drove a car, stopped at the red light at Chandni Chowk, was a very highly motivated person. Now, what is it that makes this word motivation so very negative, so very dangerous, is the fact that it has to be followed up by something else. It has to be having tethers at the back, holding it back. Motivation alone is not going to do much. Motivation alone without the knowledge is going to be, simply inspired to go and jump into the water, not knowing how to swim. But motivation with knowledge makes it doubly dangerous. And that is where you need to have somebody else standing at the back, holding back that reins, pushing it, holding it tightly so that motivation doesn't go about doing what it ought to be doing. And that's a challenge that we as educators have. And we unfortunately are working with a system which somebody believed in their good senses that this is the best thing that can happen. We cannot wish away this concept called school, but school is amongst the most faulty machines that have ever been invented. Let me briefly take you through its history to give you an idea of why I have come to that kind of a inference. There is learning. People can learn. Every one of us have used our sense organs, we have experienced things, we have done some things, we have learned from that. But we find that we do not have enough time on hand to go and learn everything that can be learned. So we say that if there is some other person who has the experience, someone else who has traversed their journey, someone else who has the skills, and that can be transferred to me, I might be able to cut a few steps in my journey, go there a little faster. So we invented this idea called a teacher, that there can be someone with experience who can transfer that knowledge to me, transfer that skill to me, motivate me, inspire me, handhold me through that process so that I can short circuit that journey, go there a little faster. But the teacher had no control over the speed with which I was learning. And so the teacher most times was twiddling his or her thumbs and saying, this fellow is not learning, I should wait. So he decided that let me do one thing, rather than wait for this one chap to go, I'll bring in some 10 of them, 15 of them, 20 of them, 40 of them, and teach to all. We invented the classroom. And then we said, but then these 5-year-olds have already become 6-year-olds, there is a new batch of 5-year-olds, so therefore I cannot afford to have, only one teacher. Let me multiply this concept. So I created something called a school. Now, because the school got so many children at different age groups learning different things, we had to create all kinds of structures to it, all kinds of walls in the middle, which resulted in something called a timetable, something called a curriculum, something called a textbook, something called a subject, and so on and so forth. We made this machine more and more complicated as we went along. As a principal of a school, as an owner of a school who have had the chance to peep into the structure, you will notice that most of the time you are actually intimidated by all of these nuts and bolts which we have put there to try and hold this thing called school together. And the first thing that gets sacrificed in this whole process is that original intent that there is somebody wanting to learn. And most times when we come shopping for solutions to places like this, after all, whether you are looking for a product out in one of those stalls or are listening to some of us, you believe that there is some solution to some small problem that you have which is troubling you, which you believe will relieve you of that. If you carefully start looking at each of those problems that you have in your list of asks, the wish list that you are carrying with, you will notice that many of those have nothing to do with that final thing called learning. And despite all of these band-aids that we are attaching to our school system, be it technology, be it assessment, be it some fancy textbook, every one of them is trying to hold the problem inside. The school continues to remain. And the person who is getting increasingly disillusioned with this is that practitioner who's sitting inside that school at his or her wit's end. Pick up any single teacher, ask her, why is it that your children are not performing? Nobody there has an answer to that question because they haven't reflected. Now, why is it that someone who was vested with the major responsibility of hand-holding this child through that process of learning is not asking this question? If at all you push her to answer this question, she's going to bluff her way through. That every one of us know. Not because she intends to do that, but she doesn't know. And that is one of those issues which has always plagued us. And this is an inherent fault in that system called a school. And why I am starting off on such a negative note is for you to hold on to this kind of a structure. Every session that you will hear here, everybody who has been speaking, all of us are very motivated people. We will try and tell you that's the best solution that can ever be. Nobody else has solved this problem till now. I have solved it. Okay? And you're going to carry back an idea which, even if you know where to fit it in, it might fit in and still not do the thing that you really wanted it to do. So I want you to be aware of this while you are looking at the structure. Now, typically, the way we have structured the school system, we have this so-called national bodies who will breathe down our necks and tell us what to do. So we have the national curriculum framework. Now, till date, it was very easy. NCERT would come out with a document and pray that everybody reads it, and nobody would. I'm very sure you never read anything called NEP 1986. Oh yes, we know, we heard it there. There was a PPT on it and so on and so forth. And slowly over a period of time, we had this NCF 2005, and along with it the CCE, and along with it various other things that were suggested to us. But pick up a typical teacher and ask her, what do you read to help you with your profession? There is one and only one resource, and that's the textbook. And the science teacher will never read the social studies textbook. The social studies teacher is afraid of mathematics, and the mathematics teacher says English is not my problem. Nobody reads beyond their specific. So which essentially brings us to that diagram that Himanshu was trying to show us, the pyramid. In his view, he put basic understanding as the base of it and went on all the way to academic leadership. But who was he referring to? Who is this pyramid? Is this pyramid the teacher? Is this pyramid the coordinator who walks in and looks through the window and finds out whether your class is doing well or not? Is this the vice principal and the principal? Is it the owner of the school? Is it that society? Is it that state administration or national administration? Who is this pyramid? Now the problem with our school reform journeys have been that we are not clarifying this position. At least in those private schools which are in a way isolated from the rest of that community. A government school principal is an employee of the government. He is not a principal of a school. Okay, and there are very subtle differences, and there are very, they have very large implications on what that person can do and cannot do. But nevertheless, we are referring to a private school, a school which has functionally provided itself the autonomy of working on its own goals, its own vision, and so on. So there is somebody here who's championing the vision. It could, in most cases, be the owner of the school. It could sometimes be the owner oblique principal person. Sometimes it might even be the principal. Now the vision is almost translated as, I have a dream, you implement it. This in the Haryana lingo is a two-pad technology. So you want somebody else to implement the mission that you want implemented so that your vision is realized. You want to realize the vision, so the next group of people hold on to the mission. And what do? They say, we are following the mission of the school, you learn. Now, this is something that we will have to continue to question every time if we want to gain anything from any of our opinions that all of us sitting on these chairs are going to throw at you. Be it that little AI tool that we are referring to, be it the examination reform that we will refer to, be it a new textbook that we will refer to, all of these will serve your purpose if and only if you have a question in your mind and that question is something that is troubling you, is stopping you from sleeping, and if the solution of that problem is going to help you solve that last mile. Of course, we can always outsource our job to the tuition classes, and once the results come, take the credit for it. Now, that all of us know heart of heart is not what we want to do. And so therefore the suggestion that please hold on to this structure called a school, which we know for sure is a faulty machine, and every new technology that somebody is proposing to us is only a quick fix. It is a paracetamol, it's an antibiotic, and will not get rid of the original problem that is plaguing our school. Try and dwell on that original problem as to why is it that our children are not learning, or why is it that our teachers are not able to make that learning happen. And try and see if from each of the solutions that we offer you, there is some germ of truth, some possibility, some little solution that can help you solve the problem that you are addressing. I wish you all the luck, and I hope you have the patience to listen to all of us and hopefully take back some things which will work, but that work is not going to happen on day one because it is not a band-aid. It cannot solve that problem. It will only plug the problem. It will only hide the problem from you. So please make it a point to carry back messages which you can dwell on, which you can put into action, and hopefully all of you, your teachers, and those children who are part of your journey will all benefit from that. Thank you very much.
We have 2 minutes. When we started this, and we are still inviting people from outside, and I always thought that we are in the terms of like one thing which Trump is very forceful about, that there should be a net export import thing. And as a team, we were net importers of education from outside. Still, there are people coming from other countries, and we are still learning from them. So I used to think, when would we be the exporters of education? We still have a way to go, but in between a small milestone happened, and I believe in celebrating whatever little milestones you get. So I would like to show you a video, and I hope that the audio works. Just also carefully check the background. There is a video from Finland. Check the background as well.
Hello, there is our group from Martin Laakso High School, and my name is Minna, Laura. We are teachers, yes, like Johanna.
My name is Mikko. My name is Johanna, and I'm excited to come see your school over there.
Hi, my name is Patrick, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you all.
My name is Aaro.
My name is Juhani, and I'm also very excited to come here.
My name is Celia. My name is Elvira.
My name is Heikki.
My name is Elis, and it will be a lot to come to your school.
My name is Riku.
My name is Emma.
My name is Sarina.
My name is Elsa.
My name is Iris. Have a good day.
And here you see also Johanna.
Hello.
Nice.
See you next year.
These are 18 kids, boys and girls, and 3 teachers who are coming to India next November. We were fortunate enough to go and meet them. We have been to Finland for last 7-8 years. I am personally very fascinated by that country. I can speak for a lot of time about what I have learned from them, but I find it different from rest of the countries. But this time, maybe something come together. Sneh and I went to a school and we met them, and now they are coming back to the Ryan group to Delhi. And as you can see from the classroom, it's a class of religion. They teach religion. The teachers are very interested in learning more about Hinduism. We'll be going to Haridwar after this. So we have put in force our first sister school partnership, and the Ryan group has been our representative from India. So that's one thing to celebrate. I'm hoping that many such things will come. So Riya, can you just give that partnership agreement? Harish sir and Rajaram sir, you can be on either of the sides. We can click this photograph, give it to Snehal. Well, Snehal has insisted that Gitanjali ma'am should sign it, but I think we can have a photograph together. The last teacher in this team, Johanna, when we went there, most of our the group members were really going gaga about the way she was teaching maths. She was teaching maths in Finnish. I have attended classes where Marathi was being taught, and I do not know anything about Marathi language. But you know when the students are engaged, when there is a conversation going and flowing from one person to another, because to manage that you need a lot of preparation. So that's why our team members were very happy about the way Johanna was teaching maths. She would be here in November. I would like to carve out a day where we can invite all of you and we can learn from those students, from teachers, other than the time they will spend in Ryan school and the school in Dehradun. So I look forward to have another get together when they will be here next year. So with this, I would like to thank Harish sir and Rajaram sir. I love having rituals as well, and I have the liberty to create new designations for the people I know. You know this, so you will do this thing as well in the conference for us. So for Madam Pinto and to Dr. Snehal, we have a shawl imported from Kashmir via Faridabad through our admission expert and chief shawl provider, Rita ma'am. Thank you, Rita ma'am. If anyone else need good quality shawls, other than how to increase admissions in your school. Thank you everyone. Thank you very much. So with this, we will put an end to this session. The tea should be ready. I was here. I do not know. And after half an hour, you would be divided into two groups. The color of your band would tell you which group you are. The academic leaders have to go to audit 2, which is left to us, and the founders have to come back to this hall. So we will see you again at 11:55. Thank you so much.
आंखें बंद आ रही हैं प्रतीक जी आइज क्लोज हो गई
that they have created one school and now it's taking too much of their time, or somehow they have started 2 schools now and now there is no longer any bandwidth left to create more schools. So in the light of that, we thought of inviting someone who has cracked this problem, who has solved this problem and have done this many times over. So the panel is the one which has 350 schools between them and an experience of around 200 plus years. So I would like to invite them. So first of all, Anirudh Gupta sir, Dr. Anirudh. DCS group started before independence. And at the place which is at the bottom, steady and strong in evolution, growth. So welcome, sir. Dr. Snehal Pinto, in 2 digits. Built organically over last 50 years now. The pattern has been given to the next generation, and now they are taking it ahead. So we will learn a lot from her as well. Dr. Kavita. In present avatar, she is representing Surasa, but in the previous one, she created a chain of schools which she grew on the franchisee mode. So this is one thing which is unique to her, and we will take up this topic as well. Ankur Mishra can join us anytime. Her flight got delayed. Central Academy, which has 78 schools, he personally managed 22 of them. So he would be joining anytime now. And to moderate the session, we have Harish sir. It can't get better than this. So the schedule is the way we have planned this session. We will invite each of the panelists to first come and speak for 10 minutes about their journey, whatever the learnings have been, what they want you to know. It will also create a context for you to ask a question in the last 15 minutes. For the same reason I spoke before other speakers, for the same reason we won't give you mic in your hand, because once you start, you will stop. So you have the notepad, write down your questions, raise your hand, we will bring the questions to the moderator and he will ask it as and when he deems fit. So over to you, Harish sir.
Is my voice carrying?
Yes.
So in the same order in which Himanshu introduced the panel, I'm going to request Dr. Anirudh Gupta to share with you briefly his journey, his challenges, his growth and growth plans. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Professor Harish Chaudhary. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I'd like to express my gratitude to Edu Excellence, especially Dr. Harish Chaudhary. I've been associated with him for last over 2 decades. I've yet to come across a more passionate, purposeful, grounded, humble, versatile, I can keep adding on, edu leaders like Dr. Chaudhary. So let's give a big round of applause for Dr. Chaudhary. Over the years, we have mentored, guided, hand-holded, I don't know how many school leaders. And I'd also like to thank Himanshu for driving Edu Excellence and for his lot of initiatives he has taken in K-12 segment. About myself, my name is Dr. Anirudh Gupta. I'm CEO of DCM Group of Schools, which started its journey in 1946 in a place called Firozpur. At that point of time, it was not a border town. It was perhaps the second largest district of erstwhile Punjab, which includes the present day Himachal and Haryana also. Himachal and Haryana were carved out in 1966. So my grandfather, who was a philanthropist, who was running a mill at that point of time, so he laid the foundation of this group in Firozpur, which was not only the biggest district but one of the biggest garrisons also. And I've always been inquisitive that because at that point of time there was no concept of self-financed private independent schools. Either there were schools set up by the British, old legacy schools, boarding schools mainly, schools being run by the social and religious trust or the municipalities or the government. Perhaps we were the first of its kind model in the country which was self-financed, totally independent. So when I asked lot of questions to lot of old timers, I realized that he was friends with a lot of British Army officers in the elite of that place, and they used to often talk to him about the scarcity and of the good quality education in that area. So somehow, he launched DCM, laid the foundation of this group in 1946. But as the destiny would had it, within 1 year of the foundation, there was independence, and along with independence came the partition. And Firozpur itself, in fact, I was telling the story with Dr. Harish yesterday evening. We came back, we were originally allocated to Pakistan, and we came back into India on 17th August 1947. So that is a different story in itself. So, the place became a border town with usual handicaps and pitfalls of being a border area. The industry became shy, the economy, was in bad shape thereafter, and with all the challenges of being a border city. So, at the time of partition, this experiment which had started in 1946 closed down for a few months. But the deputy commissioner of that place, he requested my grandfather to restart that, experiment again. And on 15th October 1947, we restarted our journey. And initial, there was scarcity of resources. There was not much awareness about the education in that area. So there were all kinds of challenges, and then due to proximity to border, 1956 war, 1965 Indo-Pak war, 1971 Indo-Pak war. So one after another, something was happening. So initially there were no plans of scaling up or scaling out or venturing out. And at that point of time, the way the schools are growing and mushrooming these days, this was not the, scenario. School was a very, very, kind of a service industry, a charitable kind of an effort, and there was no commercialization and nothing of that sort. However, in early 80s, due to terrorism in Punjab, and I will say, in terms of development, it was kind of blessing in disguise. Since we were also, what you call it, on the hit list, and there was a lot of danger and a lot of things, lot of, the entire turbulence and, killings happening there. So we thought of venturing out into Haryana, neighboring Haryana, because Haryana was the state adjacent to Punjab, and eventually we set up 3 schools in Ambala, Panchkula, and a small school in Faridabad also, and hospital in Gurgaon. So after 80s, 90s, we thought of fine, let's set up new ventures, new schools. But the idea was not to go on a rapid expansion spree. We did one project at a time, and we ensured that every new school which we were setting up was a different model. We were not replicating or, just, expanding without any purpose or reason. So, then we ventured out at few other places in Punjab also, and in Himachal also. But all these expansion was purpose driven, was keeping in view their futuristic needs. Whenever we set up a new school, we realize a lot of mistakes we do, lot of things which we feel could have been better, and at the same time, keeping pace with the industry revolution, keeping pace with the changing scenario, EdTech, AI. In 3 years back, we had set up India's first school of entrepreneurship in K-12 segment, which we named it DCM, Yes, Young Entrepreneur School, in city called Ludhiana, which is still recognized as the Manchester of India. So where we are exposing children to entrepreneurship right from grade 1, not as a subject, as a culture, something which is, indirectly intoxicated or, exposed to. So thereafter we had set up a school near IT Park, Chandigarh, which is totally based on experiential learning. And then we ventured out in Himachal, where the entire focus was on learning from nature. So this is the way, starting on the expansion plans from 80s till now. So, we are still maintaining, we are into our 80th year now. we are still maintaining the same ethos. I mean, our visitors book for that matter has been maintained since 1947. If anybody comes to my office, all who visited us, who were interested in education, and that point of time, even the bureaucrats or the ministers, the politicians, they evinced great interest in education, because those people, like, who fought all these, like independence struggle and all, they understood that, education is the growth engine of economy. If we have to revive our country, if we have to rebuild the nation, it's the education. And education starts with the formative years. So I have seen, 2 to 3 pages written by the bureaucrats or the ministers, and they just didn't visit school, have a 1 hour, see the annual function and go back. They used to visit classes, they used to interact with the students, the parents, the teachers. So I personally, took over the reins in 1997 at the age of 21. And initially I had thought of that, okay, since I being the only child in the family, I had to, there was nobody else to manage. And the moment I completed my engineering, I took over, and initially the thought was, because it was honestly speaking not my first choice to step into the shoes of an administrator or school promoter, I initially thought that, okay, let me do it for a few years and consolidate the things, give more a professional outlook, set the systems in place, do it on an autopilot, and then, do what I wanted to do. But since the day I ventured into this K-12 segment, I found it both, challenging and interesting. And I realized that, if India has to become a developed nation, if India has to become, now we are the 4th largest economy to the 3rd and eventually the top of the world, it is the education. It is the education which is going to take us forward. Like Himanshu told about Operation Sindhur. I mean, even the wars, we realize that the wars are going to be fought are not going to be the infantry wars or to be fought in the field. They are all going to be, technology driven. With the kind of precision our missiles, hit the most sensitive targets in Pakistan. So we deem it as a responsibility, being into this sphere for last 80 years, to drive change also. And from, we were the first school in India to change the uniform, which used to be a white uniform, to a colored one. So we did take a lot of calculated risk also. But we introduced computers when there was no computers in India in early 80s, and we imported computers from Taiwan. And then, the concept of smart classrooms, we started importing projectors from Germany, ACFA projectors, they used to be huge projectors. So right from the inception, this innovation, resilience has been ingrained in our culture, which, I inherited, and I'm trying to wish to, take this journey forward. And, our journey is more or less parallel to the journey of our country. And we want that, when we become, 100 years old as a nation in 2047, India amidst, other sectors, aviation, manufacturing, pharma, defense, what we used to call India Vishwa Guru, people still talk about Nalanda and Takshila. So our vision is that, with organizations and my colleagues, that India should gain the center space, and that is what is written in the national education policy also, that our vision is that we have to play a very important role in taking India to the center stage of the education in the world. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Anuruddh. That was an interesting take. And to grow, to upgrade, to become large, your vision has to be larger than yourself. And I think that's what I'm taking from Anuruddh. If you set your aim high, you move towards it. And with that, I'll request Dr. Snehal, if I may say, the largest education non-government group in the world, probably, in the world, to share with you the transition, the movement, and what it takes to set up, stabilize a new school with systems, world-class systems and processes.
Thank you, Professor. So anytime Professor is at the helm of affairs, please be ready to learn. I have already shared a bit of our journey earlier on. In fact, next year it will be our 50th year of providing, of equipping and empowering our students and staff in the nation. When our chairman, Dr. F. Pinto, started the first school, and it's interesting, I love the diversity we have in our country because Anirudh started from a different context. We, on the western side of India, started with a different context. And I am amazed at how God uses people across the nation in different contexts. But if the intent and the aim is clear and the vision is far-fetched, people come along. So we started in a garage with 36 kids. And at that time, the aim was to ensure that there's no monopoly of only convent education. So Sir was probably the first lay people, as we call them, non-clergy, to start the schools. And the idea was not just pure academics. The vision was holistic development, all-round development. It was not just pure focus on academics, but it was to develop the person as a whole. So the focus was on the child. And as we started being in Maharashtra, at that time the Board of Education was the state board, and as we started with that, we moved on with our first campus in Delhi because the CBSE board was prevalent. We serve the community keeping the parental expectations in mind, but to serve the time, Sir would actually go into the area and connect with people and talk to people and get to know. And one of the things we have realized in putting up schools, and really a part of you in the people matters. So if the aim and the vision is not to serve, then you're going to get burnt out in this field because this is about serving. Every one of our principals over the years has started out as a teacher. So organic leadership has been a part of who we are. You train, you provide opportunities, you make the space for them to exercise autonomy and creativity. You respect diverse opinions and perspectives, but you align yourselves together to that one cause. At the end, it's the big picture that counts. And what is the big picture? The child. That the child has a wholesome experience learning and enjoying learning. Learning is not always fun. Ask a kid who hates math. It's not always fun, especially if the teacher does not help the process, that's even worse. So, our point is to make it reasonably enjoyable. And now with new methods and new trends and all of that, if we have learned anything, it is to make sure that the constants are never negotiated. So the constants for us are the values, the mission, vision, of course, the values. What do we stand for? What is the attribute of a IIT? What is the attribute of an IIT teacher? All of those matter. And the good thing about having schools across different boards that serve different demographies is that you learn that you can't make assumptions, that you've got to be humble enough to take feedback from the ground, and that no two geographical contexts offer the same lessons. You could be in the same region like NCR, and each place will have its own learning because of the demography that resides there. And the idea is you've got to have some constants. And for us, the some constants are holistic development is something we aim at. It's beyond academic learning, sports, arts, co-curricular, integrated, woven in the life of the child. Non-negotiable. That's why we will make space for exchange programs, learning programs, and that goes for staff and students. The idea is to keep it open. You cannot force people to learn. You can make space for them to learn. You can create an environment that enables them wanting to learn, but you can't make people learn. So it's causing that agency upon the student and the teacher to seek to learn. So that is something I think for us as an organization has been non-negotiable. And I think like you would find that amongst many founders, the second generation, there are very many reluctant leaders. So some leaders are born, some leadership is trusted upon. For someone who saw my parents do this day in and day out for more than my entire life really, I saw it was a thankless job. So post my graduation, I knew I wanted to serve children. It was not just the children that they were serving, because I said, you get brickbats from the parents, you get brickbats from the children, you get brickbats from the staff. Nobody is ever satisfied looks like. And they said, you're looking at the wrong way. And the only motivation my mom said to me is, if you want to serve children, you will need a teacher's degree, enroll yourself. And I remember being the last one in that college to enroll myself. I promise you that year, B.Ed is now supposed to be an obsolete degree and not, I promise you, it was as relevant as it could be for someone like me. Why? Because it is in that year that I saw the magnitude of the work that they were involved in. And why, as the second generation, as the kid of the parents at work, you can look at the world and say, they don't care enough for you all. You got to flip it and say, what can you do to add value? And I think for me, that year was a life-changing year. So you see me up on the stage talking on the mic. It all started in that year. I was introverted, shy, and I think that is the beauty of this process called learning in the educational world. It just transforms you inside out. And if it doesn't, then you got to ask yourself, why are you even in this place? It has to start from inside out. And for us, we are 3 siblings. Each one of us has different strengths. And each one of us has qualified ourselves in different fields. And what I'm trying to say here is, you can start either on the chair or from down below. I started as a teacher in Bangalore, and that is something I value and I'm grateful to my parents for. In the professional world, if you want to walk the talk, you got to do it. And that's why I was not given the chair on the first day after my B.Ed. I started out as a teacher in Bangalore with a new setup. You go through the rigmarole. You understand what are the pain points. You understand. And why is that important? Because then you learn to empathize. You learn to empathize without really without shortchanging on your expectations and the vision. The idea is not to be all Florence Nightingale types, but the idea is to make sure you're very clear about why you're here. And you're not in this alone. You're with a community of learners. And each one comes from a different story, a different background. Each one has aspirations and ambitions. Today, God has blessed you with a place, a position, but you got to earn the respect. You got to earn the buy-in, so that when you become a leader and you direct, you got people with you who will stand with you, who will walk with you, who will journey with you. And I think in that sense, we are very blessed at trying to have that. But there's been time, effort, energy put in. You know, people look at us now and think it's, wow, grand and glamour. I promise you, it has taken 50 years of traveling through the night, 7 hours, through the Naxal hit area from Nagpur to Jabalpur to start a school, to invest in the teachers there. And I would ask my dad, why are you going to places like Jabalpur and Bolpur and Durg and Damtari? And I will never forget what he said. He said, God has called many people to do different things. I feel led to serve the people that won't have access to the quality education that you find in the tier 1 cities. And I think for me that, I have carried that with me. Because then you learn to be grateful. Then you look at children differently, people differently, and really the diversity in our nation differently. You celebrate it there. Because each one has something to bring to the table, no matter at what level of the organization they are at. The point is, are you willing to listen? Are you open to wisdom? Because wisdom does not come in packaged very nicely. It comes in different forms. But are we willing to learn? And I'm grateful that at our organization we are. We respect experience, but in the transition process, we have also learned you don't come from here, you come from here. Because when you come from ground up, you rise together. And I think that, for me, is our story.
I think it started working. Got inspired here. Kavita ma'am, set up 100 plus schools, franchise models, micro schools, you have seen it all. Can you share some of the challenges? And also, what's the decision-making process between a cell phone school and a franchise school?
So I think what he mentioned last was what's the difference between a cell phone school and a franchise school and the decision making in the process. Let me begin with saying I was as a professional. I did not found the company. I joined into scale schools and initially with the thought of expanding cell phone schools. And then I happened to meet late Gulab Ramchandani sir, who was the headmaster at Thun. And in one meeting, he changed my thought process. And he mentioned, yeah, you could, of course, go out and set up schools on your own, but there are enough and more entrepreneurs in our nation who'd like to set up schools, but don't know how to, don't have the wherewithal to do it, do not have the understanding to do it. So why don't you become the engine behind these? Help them fuel their passion, help them make it live. So that was one of the choices that we made early on to say we'll go the franchise route. We learned. Our initial few franchise, we focused on, and I'm taking inputs from what they all said, that what really matters in school. And I remember Snehal saying it's not the process, it's the people first and then process. And then Dr. Anirudh saying, each school is different. When we started franchising, there was only one model to learn from, and that was DPS. Because there were not many people franchising at that point in time. So we said, okay, let's standardize things. So we started building these documents to standardize how our buildings should look, how our classrooms should look, how the hiring policy should be, all processes and policies. And And the first few schools took off really well. The first 5-7 schools did brilliantly well because there was kind of a standardization and we were able to make them successful. But when it came to scaling beyond it, we realized it's not just how your building looks. And like Dr. Singhal rightfully said, every location was different. Every parent was different. Every teacher was different. We said, okay, this has to be beyond standardization. And we realized, and also personally, I'm very passionate about the field, and I'll tell you the reason why, maybe a short backstory to say why I even got into this by choice. I was a topper all through school. I had this, compulsion to be first in the class. My parents were so worried that I would go mad studying. So they would keep saying, "Itna mat padho, don't study so much. You don't have to study so much." I was in grade 8 and I forgot my art project at home. And that was the last date of submission. So my best friend, out of care and concern for me, submitted her project as my project by striking her name and writing my name. And submitted this art project to the teacher. The teacher, of course, identified that this was not right. So I was called into the principal's office. This was a new principal who had joined a week ago. And he called my parents. And this was the first ever time my parents had to come to school for a complaint. They have always come to receive awards. This is the first time they had to come for complaint, and I was really anxious. Now we walk into the principal's office, principal is sitting here, I'm standing, and my parents are there. And the principal looks at me and asks, "So how many subjects did you fail in?" And I said, "None. I've always come first." And he said, "Don't lie." So he called the teacher, my class teacher, and he asked, "So how is she?" And teacher said, "We've never had any complaints. She's one of our best students." And the principal found himself a little embarrassed. So he looked at my parents and he said, "You know what your stupid girl has done." And I remember what my dad did. He literally banged the table, stood up and said, "What she did could have been stupid, but she's not stupid. She's the most intelligent girl in our family." And I will never forget it. And I realized what small words mean to growing minds. It's not what we learn inside the classroom, just that, but it's way beyond it. It's what we hear, the kind of reinforcements we hear in our schools that change how we grow up to be. That one incident, I knew I want to be in this profession. I want to ensure such positive reinforcements keep going to kids, that they are made to realize that they are different from their work. You know, like Wayne Dyer beautifully says that your ego can make you believe you are what you do, but it's not really that. So that was my reason of wanting to get into this. And then when we got into franchising, coming back to this story, when we got into franchising, we realized in franchising we were not able to do those positive reinforcements because those don't happen through process. They happen through people. And the biggest challenge in franchising, to take Professor Harish's question forward, was enabling teachers. Because of my passion in education, even before I joined this organization and after, I visited 3,000 schools, 30 different countries, and many within India as well. And I realized the one thing that makes the classroom better is the teacher. It's not the smart board, it's not the air conditioning, it's not everything else that happens in the classroom, it is the teacher. And I don't blame teachers, they will teach the way they have learned. If we really want to change the way teachers teach, we have to change the way teachers learn. And while B.Ed is relevant, they are still learning the way they learned 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And that's why I think the way teachers learn has to change. And that, one of the things in the process of this entire research, and that's the micro school journey that Dr. Harish mentioned. I set up a few micro schools. I traveled around the world, saw what was happening in the field of education, and micro school really caught my attention because of the personalized learning, because the role teacher played there was not to teach, though we all say we call teachers as facilitators, but we know in most classes they still teach. That changed, but even there I realized however different, personalized your curriculum is, if you do not change the way teachers learn, the impact is not going to happen in the classroom. And that brought me to the next journey, which is now I'm with Surasa, where we're working on teacher education, on how do we change the way teachers learn. Just that one experience will flip how teaching happens in the classroom. You know, we often look at teacher training as bringing teachers together in a hall, all our 50 teachers together in a hall. We say one size does not fit all for students, but we believe one size fits all for teachers. And I don't know how does that happen. If it doesn't happen for students, it obviously doesn't happen for teachers. We can't put everybody into the same room, have one trainer coming and talking, assuming everybody's at the same level, everybody has the same requirement. That's just a flawed mechanism. And a lot of times we end up doing training to meet the mandatory hours set by the board, not really understanding what our teachers need. And I think that's something that we are working on, and maybe along this conversation we'll share more on how we are making a difference there, how we begin with an assessment, actually do a need analysis, and then carry the journey forward.
My apologies, we'll have to use the same mic. I think what Dr. Snehal said was very, very powerful. And if I was to kind of try to distill it, which is not easy, I'm reminded of a conference here once we had with support from United Nations and WHO. And our chief guest at the opening ceremony was Sardar Ronak Singh Ji of Apollo Tyres. And we asked him, you went from Punjab to Kerala and set up this plant there. Kerala at that point of time was considered a very, very difficult place. Let me go back. I once happened to meet Mr. V.V. Kurian, who set up AMUL, Gujarat Milk Marketing Federation. And there was a reporter with him who was asking him, you have done wonders in Gujarat. Why don't you repeat the experiment in Kerala? And this was published, so I can quote it. He said, it's not possible, there are too many Malayalis out there. But Ronak Singh Ji went and did wonders. So we asked him, what's the secret of success? And he said very categorically 3 things. Sincerity, hard work, and Vaheguru Di Kripa. We closed after 3 days with Virendra Punj as our military speaker, Punjloids. And we asked him the same question. And lo and behold, he said exactly the same 3 words. Sincerity, hard work, and God above. I think what Dr. Anand Gupta started off by saying, and if I have to sum up, a purpose larger than life, a commitment. Luck comes to those who try, who work hard. And as we are listening, I am trying to learn. Peter McCollin, when he was completing his term as principal of Doon School, he said he had worked in 7 different countries. I think now he is heading Khan Academy. And I said, how do you operate in these different countries? He said, it takes time. And I usually meet success, but success, overnight success comes after 10 years of hard work. What I'm also carrying home from Snehal's, if I say, very touching story, hit the ground. Hit the ground. You see, from our own experiences, if you look at the building blocks of any great organization, it is somebody who toiled and toiled. And since I have a little flair for literature and some of your English teachers, there's one book I love by Kim Bo-chung. Every street is paved with gold. But you have to dig it. Get down to it. What she's also telling me is, you see, many of us, not me, many of you, have set up your schools in your own locality where you have lived, grown, you know the terrain, you know the people. As a matter of fact, and maybe we'll talk about it in the evening session, the first set of students who will come to the school which is just starting up, especially in a non-metro, are those who come either because they know you or your family reputation. And then the rest follows, and we'll take it up in the later part of the day, the last session. But when you go to a new place altogether, of which you have very little idea, and I believe Ryan Group is now going international, what do you study? How do you collect the data? How do you customize to that place? So Kavita ma'am, I'm a student of Gulab Ramchandani, and he did wonders. I clearly remember the transition time at our school when we were a little short of funds, and that was his great contribution. And he's probably the most renowned consultant for setting up new schools. Of course, he's no more now. Vijit is a dear friend. But he made mistakes. I worked with him for setting up a Unison World School in Dehradun, which is now doing extremely well. Wellington School, Pune. He was chief advisor to Assam Valley, and I can tell you this story because I'm told that after about a reasonable amount of time, a couple of decades, the stories can be released. And the principal was Sonia Gandhi, not the parliamentarian, another Sonia Gandhi. She spells her name differently. Doon School has a very unique way of classroom allocation. I will not elaborate on that. And Mr. Ramchandani implemented that in Assam Valley School. And then 1 year they shut it down. They got back to the original. So I was asking Sonia, what happened? What happened was, the corridors in Doon School and the staircase are very wide. The corridors in Assam Valley School were narrow. So when children shifted from one classroom to another in a quick 5-minute break, they used to hit each other and get accidents, and there were damages. Now, that little customization from infrastructure to people. So next question I'm going to request all the panelists to respond to is, because I hear one word. I ask the owners, तुम handover क्यों नहीं करते हो? What is holding you back? And I typically hear, sir, अच्छे principal नहीं मिलते. And they also tell me, teacher नहीं मिलते हैं. हम teacher कहाँ से लाएं? So I'm going to ask them, when you move to a new territory, a new place, how do you identify competent school principal, competent teachers? What have you done to do that? Over to you.
So, before replying to the question, so Dr. Chaudhary was talking about a vision, which reminded me of a small story that a blind man went to God and asked God that what can be more worse than being a blind. He asked God what can be more worse than being a blind, and God said not having a vision. So I think in whatever we do, Dr. Chaudhary talked about hard work, sincerity of purpose. I think these things are still as relevant and will always remain relevant, whatever form of AI and emerging technologies do we see. Bhav, niyat, very important. So answering to that question, that whenever you go out, I mean, what all things you keep in mind, how do you select people? So case to case basis, which place you are going into it, studying the demography of that place, what are the type and quality of the existing schools, how do you plan to pitch yourself? So these are the initial few things, SWOT analysis before setting up a school in a new area. It's very important to study. When I first went to Ludhiana to open a school, the first thing I learned about what was Ludhiana, how the name Ludhiana came into being, and I realized the original name of Ludhiana was Ludhiana. Fine. So that is it, and Snehal, your take on this.
Thank you. Check. Okay. So just to add to that,
really. And I think you will find similar resonance in terms of when you go into a new place, especially in terms of people. Interestingly, when Professor said, how do you get competent principals? I promise you, no one comes with a certificate saying, I am the answer you're looking for. I've seen my parents being visible leaders, which means you show up at the assembly time, which means you're there, the first person at the gate, which means, so when we recruit, when we appoint, like Anirudh said, we definitely bank on someone from our existing system to go mentor and orient the new place. So like I said, when I started in Bangalore, Sudha Miss was there. She kind of got all of us, into an orientation session, then breakaway sessions, then teaching sessions, and so she gave up her time. And similarly, there are people willing within the organization who want to do more. But you've got to identify them. Now, you won't be able to identify them if you're not visible. If you're not there on the ground, watching them in action. And I believe Sir and Ma'am, she came in on board as a standard 2 teacher, Montessori, and then went on to become, take on each grade. Now, I've grown up listening to her trajectory. And there are things such as this process that no matter how much, like AI is great. I am all for embracing it reasonably and adequately within the system. But it cannot ever substitute the humane dynamic of a person. And I do believe that is the value we bring to the table in this process of learning, in the field of education. We invest time. And is there any principal in our organization that has not made their share of mistakes? Absolutely not, because I have made my share of mistakes. But the point is, you fix it, you take responsibility, you make it right, and you move forward. When you have that kind of, these are qualities that we look for in a person when we appoint them as a leader. If they are visible leaders, if they are people of action, when I say people of action, they don't have to be in your face and in your eyes everywhere, that I'm the one who's doing this job. No, that's not what I mean. I'm sure you know better than that. But the ones who are there when it matters, who are proactive in serving, go beyond the line of duty. And care enough. Because at the end of the day, it's the child that matters. The safety, the well-being, and it's a holistic well-being, okay? It's, are we known for academics? In some places, yes. But by and large, we are known for an all-round, like 360 development kind of a place, where we are investing in not just their academic leanings, but also their co-curricular aspects. So you'll find a lot of creative people coming out of our schools. They are into media, they are into arts, and they are into different... And every school will have their strengths, and every school will have their forte of the kind of people that you are nurturing, you're developing, equipping, and you're raising. The point is allowing them the space to grow. And I think we have been blessed with the leadership. Sir and Ma'am are very clear about certain values, principles, and the ecosystem of what a Ryan represents, and Ryan is, and a Ryanite should be. Like, we're very clear about that. And that's why when we go into a new place, this is what we have to offer. We look at the demand, we look at the need, and now, like Anirudh Anirudh said, there are many entrepreneurs in this field wanting to set up schools, wanting to do it. But I'm sure, like Kavita will always vet, why do you want to do what you want to do? What matters at the end of the day? Because money will come, but you've got to get the vision right. If you're in it for that, you lost the plot. 50 years later, now we are beginning to see, just when you think, oh, now we can kind of, yeah, things are running. No, I promise you, they're not. Because AI is already here. Now how are you equipping your teachers? Because the kids are ahead of the learning curve. Now what are you going to do? You see, you cannot ever be in this field and say, we have arrived. You will never be able to say that. And if you're able to say that, then you're on dangerous ground. So don't give yourself that place of comfort. Always be in a place of, not even anxiety, but in a place of proactive engagement. Like, I want to engage, not just with the people within, but beyond, through the people within.
Thank you. One of the advantages that large groups have is to be able to get teachers, school leaders at least from within the network, but that's not the case for single school owners. I'm sure some of you who are single school owners think, and we've seen that in franchising as well, right? When you franchise and go to a new city, they do not have a legacy of bringing teachers from other campuses. And unlike own school groups, in franchise groups, we can't do transfers between schools because every school owner is protective of their team and they don't want to send trained people to the next team. They're okay to lose the people to some other school nearby, that's a different thing, but they don't want the people to go to another franchise school. And earlier I had said we learned this lesson very quick in franchising. Initially it was about standardizing infrastructure and process, but eventually it was about creating pipeline of high quality teachers and principals in every city. So for single school owners, and when you're wanting to scale, it's important that you start engaging with the local community early on to create your pipeline of teachers. One of the things that worked very well for us was setting up teacher development centers. In every city that you want to set up a school, start a teacher development center. Train teachers. You're helping the entire ecosystem. You get to take the best, but you also are ensuring supply of good teachers to the rest of that city, which helps your school grow, helps awareness of parents grow. So setting up, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel all over again. There are organizations that help you set up. Invest a little on setting up a teacher development center. It'll give you more returns than the building that you're setting up, for sure. That's one way of creating a pipeline of teachers. And I absolutely agree with what Dr. Sehal said, that nobody comes with a certificate that they competed. They can come with certificates of qualification, but it's beyond qualification, beyond competence. It's also cultural fit for you and the organization. That really matters a lot. And that's something that will happen with them being around your system for some time. So when you set up these teacher development centers, you also get that opportunity for them to work in your environment and culture for some time. The second thing is building competence while they are in your system. When we start a school, it's important to allocate a budget. And I've seen this as a franchisor, when we've spoken to franchisees, like again she said, why are you starting this school? The critical question of why. They're okay to invest 40 crores in a building, but they're very apprehensive to give 4 lakh to a principal. We say, but all your investment is going to be driven by this person. You're investing a lot of money in the building, but the person who's going to run it has to be taken care of and trained. So there's an expectation that principals and teachers will come trained, yes, basic training, but constant in-service teacher training is a responsibility of every school. Earmarking a budget for it, absolutely essential for every school. And not because it has to be done, mandated by a board, not a 2-day workshop at the beginning of the year and a 2-day workshop at the end of the year. It is a constant, ongoing process with need analysis. And elaborating the previous point that I mentioned in the opening remarks was, also making it a measurable teacher training. So my question is, when we finished with the previous organization, when we were franchising, we would bring 400 teachers, and at the end of it, everybody went very happy. They were motivated, charged, we're going to do this. But if I as a leader wanted to measure what have they learned, how much are they applying in the classroom, there were no tools to do it. Principals were not a part of that training, because principal thinks these are teacher training and they don't become a part of those trainings, so they don't even know how to measure application of this in the classroom, how to mentor teachers forward. So ensuring that your teacher training is measurable. The application is monitored and mentored. Another experience that I've had across these franchise schools is there's a lot of monitoring but very little mentoring. Monitoring without mentoring does not help. I don't want to use a stronger word, but let me just say does not help. Every monitoring initiative has to be supported with mentoring if we really want to prepare teachers to become school leaders. Unlike most other industries where linear growth is possible in multiple designations. So from a manager, someone can become a senior manager to a AVP to a VP to a senior VP. In schools, it's not a very hierarchical structure. There are very few leadership roles. And here is my request then to add on. If teachers who have worked in your school are prepared to become principals for other schools, please open up those doors. Don't feel I want the best teacher to myself. Anyway, they're not going to stay. They're going to leave grudgingly. If you create those opportunities for them, and I've had this experience, let me tell you, in one of the conferences I was speaking at, a school owner stood up and said, and a large school group said, out of my 29 schools, you have given me 16 principals. I think that's a great matter of pride for the organization that's enabled something like that. So be an organization which will enable leadership for other schools, and we will be able to solve that puzzle in crisis a little of having high quality teachers and school principals.
I'd like to add what Savita said, and especially for the school owners and promoters sitting here. Generally, what mistake we do, we act like becoming a banyan tree beneath which nothing survives. So we have to, when we appoint leader, be it a principal or anybody else in a leadership role, give authority, not just responsibility. Generally what we do, we give the responsibility and keep the authority with us. It has to be other way around. And then we'll see when you give the authority, and if a person is making mistake, own that mistake yourself. It's okay, fine, it will happen. So I think this is very important. And secondly, about the selecting whether it's a principal or a coordinator or teacher, I have taken a lot of risk, and in a lot of cases I have given preference to a fresher rather than the most experienced one. So it's your in-house training, your motivation, your guidance, and rather than person coming with a whole, a kind of a fixated mindset, it's easy to train at, instead of making them learn, unlearn and relearn. So it's at times, if you have a good and robust in-house training facilities like Kavita was talking, so you have to, train, guide, you have to make them adapt and understand your culture, your vision. I think that's always better, and it's very, very important for any organization which want to grow and scale. Investment in your leadership, investment in your teachers, and don't expect them to deliver something what they have not been trained for. You have to train them. So these were a few things over to you.
Wonderful. I think just too much is coming at a very fast pace. We'll attempt to summarize it. I hope Himanshu are recording these sessions because we'll have to do a little bit of analysis after this. Anirudh is a very dear friend. Please don't misunderstand me. Marriage, I was told, चलती नहीं है, चलानी पड़ती है. And that is something which the kids have to be taught. Principals मिलते नहीं है, बनाने पड़ते हैं. Teachers मिलते नहीं है, बनाने पड़ते हैं. Ready-made नहीं आते. have that insight into identifying talent. And if I may go a little one step backwards, what is our mechanism of appraisals and feedback? Are we identifying who are our teachers who are aligned to our vision? To begin with, and I'm going to repeat and repeat, that vision has to be much bigger than life. So one of the accounting principles is an organization's ongoing activity. My teacher of behavioral science, Ratana, is not here, when I was doing my management course, was a consultant to Toyota, Japan. And he told us in one of the board meetings which he sat through, and he was pretty fluent in Japanese, Toyota had a 250-year plan. 250 years. Now, it's a strategic plan. But what is it they're saying? People will come and go. The organization goes on. What's the legacy you leave behind? What's the legacy you want to leave behind? What's the change that you will bring in? And I'm very categorical that one thing which does not bind people together is money. So, since this session has been recorded and some of you were, I think all of you are on social media except me, which is very dangerous. So I will not name the school, but I met a school owner and I asked him, कैसा चल रहा है? He said, sir, last year एक बहुत बड़ी गलती कर दी. I said, क्या किया? He said, मैंने announce कर दिया the best 2 teachers will get a Honda City. So I said, then what happened? He says, I gave them Honda City. Then what happened? He says, now I have a problem. Whenever I assign any work, they say Honda City वाले से बात करो. Honda City वाले को बोलो. See, this is the paradox. When you start a school or for that matter any business, the first requirement is to break even and earn some money. It's important survival. And somewhere, if your vision is not large enough, that subsumes. Two, I'll share you a small story which my director told me when I joined here, and he also happened to be my teacher in my BTech days, Professor Nigam. I consider him one of the greatest academicians of his times. He was later chairman of UGC and he was vice chancellor of Key University. NIRF rankings notwithstanding, Professor Padmanabhan was debating something about it. IIT Delhi is ranked number 1, number 2 in NIRF. But we believed and we believe that IIT Kanpur is a better institute than IIT Delhi. And I say it from this platform, though some of my directors will get upset with it. One reason is I did my BTech there. It actually was ranked better. And I asked Professor Nigam, he had come from IIT Kanpur, sir, what made IIT Kanpur a great institution? And he told me a story which I would love to share. IIT Kanpur, Pandit Nehru, in the 50s, wrote a letter to MIT, Massachusetts Institute, the president there. We want to set up a world-class technology institute and we want to support. And according to Professor Nigam, these documents are available with UGC now. And the president wrote back to him, whether we would like to support India and we want to support India, we do not have the bandwidth to do so. And the debate continued, and finally the president of MIT agreed to put in a 11-member team of professors from 6 top universities of US to set up IIT Kanpur. It was set up with American collaboration, US collaboration. But there was a condition. You have to find a director yourself, and Professor Kelkar was identified as the first director of IIT Kanpur, who was a world-class, world-renowned scientist. And George was heading this 11-member team. So he went to US, they got together this team, they came back to Delhi, and in a steam engine they were going from Delhi to Kanpur, where George wrote a letter to his wife. I don't want to be here. This is no place for us. And so on. I'm just cutting a long story short. But I cannot refuse a person of the humility and sincerity of Professor Kelkar. And George and 9 of them stayed on there for 12 years. Professor Stokes was the last of them. And they mentored the subsequent team. So what I'm also suggesting is, one, identify talent. I'm just trying to summarize what the panelists are saying. Two, have a system which allows this to come to you. Three, and as Arun said, take some risks. You have to risk. Give them authority, not only responsibility. Own the mistakes. There will be mistakes. Allow them to grow. Give them charge. And that would be the key to expansion. That would be the key to growth. Keep an eye on the quality. There are some things which are absolutely non-compromisable, non-negotiable, and that has to be defined. And once again, I'll share a small story with you, and I don't have documentary proof of it, but this is told to virtually every class in Doon School. Mr. Martin was the principal there, and Doon School owes a lot to Mr. Martin and his legacy. And the then Prime Minister Pandit Nehru, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, and the two kids went to the school to seek admission. They were granted admission, and Pandit Nehru asked Mr. Martin, the school was to start the session on 1st of July, and he said, so my sister, Vijay Lakshmi Pandit was with him, and Vijay Lakshmi Pandit's granddaughter has a house in Dehradun which is adjoining my house. We are neighbors. She had been the ambassador to the United Nations prior to that. He said, you know, these children will come on the 1st of July, my aunt will drop them. What time does she pick them up? Mr. Martin opened the drawer of his desk, pulled out his passport, put it on the table. He said, sir, you are the Prime Minister. I have a request. Please don't impound my passport. I have a job waiting for me in London. As long as I am the principal, they come here on 30th of June and go back after 4 months. They stay here. Gracious of Pandit Nehru, we accepted. The rest is history. What I am saying is, sometimes you have to have the guts to face the Prime Minister of the country. And if I may say so, your father did that. Not the Prime Minister, but authorities. Sometimes you have to stand up to the government and say so. A word on artificial intelligence, since that came up. Intelligence can be artificial, stupidity is human. There will be stupidities. Unfortunately, we don't understand intelligence. How do you artificialize it? And again, computers, software, AI are tools. Teachers are magic. Have faith in your teachers. Again, beautiful book by Vineet Nair. Employees first, customers next. Himanshu is saying that we need to take audience from the audience.
If you have questions, just write it on a piece of paper, raise your hand, and Madam, you can please type.
So I'd like to add just one thing. There was a discussion going on I think probably it was here in IIT, one of the meetings only, that how do you define a good school? What do you mean by a good school, and how do you create one? So everybody started defining their views. Is it the infrastructure, or the teachers training, or the technology, or the pedagogical aspect? So everybody was, like putting across their points. And after that discussion, what came out of it was, you give any school a good leader, the school will become good. So it's a good leader, speed of the engine is the speed of the train. So it's very important to have good leadership, able leadership, give them authority, give them space, give them autonomy, and you'll have a good school. There's no magic or there's no rocket science in that. Thank you very much.
Manshu is getting anxious, but I feel like adding on to what Anirudh said. Double engine trains do better when they have to climb mountains. So can the chairperson secretary be at the back also? Manshu, what is your questions? You want to read it out, Manshu? You want to give it to us to read? Okay. जो आ गए हैं वो दे दो बेटा. Can you read this? Please, cell phone.
What's the cell phone school?
What is a cell phone school?
There's no cell phone.
And did you use the word cell phones?
The question, so franchise school is when you, the franchisee invests and the franchisor gives all the support to run the school. An independent school, which is not a franchisee, is basically, I start a school, I get all the expertise myself, I hire people, I don't have external support of a franchisor. That's the only difference.
I don't know. Maybe.
No.
So, okay. Yeah, I use that word cell phone. That's okay, we'll pass that. This is a question to Kavita ma'am. What is the future of micro schools in India? Your thoughts on the sustainability of these schools for long term?
That's a good one. May I know who asked the question? Super. Brilliant. Just to give you some context of micro schools, in 2023, US saw 250,000 new micro schools come. Just 1 year data I'm giving. And globally, there were close to 1 million micro schools that started in 2024. India is catching up very quickly. Just last year, and I'm just giving data and then I'll also talk about success of some of these micro schools. In India, the success parameter is yet to be defined because these children have not passed out of the system. We define success when children pass out of the system and say how are they getting, I will not say how are they scoring, but how are they doing in life is an important parameter to assess. But globally, if you look at data, just to, again, because US was the pioneer in setting up new age micro schools, very similar to our Gurukul system, by the way. No rocket science difference there. But the data says that learners from micro school learn 2x faster, learn 5x more skills and subjects and specialities, and do better at standardized testing than even conventional schools. So that's just some data to look.
Thank you. This interesting question which I request all of you to respond to. If we invest a lot on people first, and then if they leave, you will never be able to make or follow process. But if you get the process first, then investing on people will be a better result.
So yeah, this is like the chicken or the egg. But can I just, from where we come from, a process is no good if there are no people. People make mistakes in the process of learning, and that's fine. But it is in the process that people have some structure, some framework. So both work in tandem. Yes, you have a robust process. You have a fantastic, like absolutely no gap in the process kind of a system in place. And yet you will still have to spend your effort and energy into people to get into that process. So where I come from, people matter first. Process follows. And we'll get it consistently right. And you know, put in a, hate to break it to you, welcome to life. It is natural. It hurts, but think of it this way. like it or not, they become hopefully your good ambassadors or wherever they go. And I've seen that in the cities where we have had our schools. And it's better to let them go peacefully than looking back at you grudgingly. You know?
Yes, I think both people and processes, they have to complement each other. Processes are extremely important. You have to have the standard operating procedures in place. But I mean, it's the people who have to drive the process. And they should not just blindly follow the processes, they should add value to it. The processes have to evolve. And processes will evolve if you have the right set of people in place, trustworthy, dependable people in place.
Well, I also have my comments, although I'm not too sure if Vanshu wanted me to comment on these things. If you do not want to invest in people, try ignorance. And then there's a Peter's principle, which says everybody rises to his or her own level of incompetence. If you do not push them forward, they will stagnate. Now the problem is that good teachers leave and the incompetent ones stay on because they are not required anywhere. So what do? I'm suggesting people, teachers. My wife joined the teaching profession about 30 years back, and she said, 1-2 saal kaam karenge. And she stayed on the same school for 30 years. She's just taken VRS, and the owner principal is requesting her to come back every time, and she comes for various functions, and she's now become a teacher trainer and so on. Teachers leave within 1 to 3 years, or they stay for 30 years. Once they align to your culture, once they align to your vision, then they're there. So get your HR processes right. Even before you think of, leave aside expansion, leave aside even running a school, get your HR processes right. But after that, it's the people. And HR processes don't cost. A cup of tea often gets done a lot more than a salary hike. A pat on the back. Are you there with them? Are you there with them? Do they feel a part of the family? That's critical. So once again, I think the panelists align on it's the people first. People first. Yeah.
Sorry, before he takes the next question. Very soon, our fear that teachers will leave to other schools will be replaced to our teachers quitting teaching as a profession. I was in US this October addressing, we were in a panel with some school superintendents, and they gave me some very insightful data. They said 30% of the teachers quit teaching in year 1 in US. They just feel burnout, and the reason is they are not able to handle. The biggest reason, one reason that they said was they feel parents and students bully them, and they're not able to handle it. If we don't equip our teachers, the fear is not that they will go to another competitor, they will quit teaching. So let's enable and empower them to deal with evolving needs and ways of learners and parents.
Yeah, Dr. Chaudhary spoke about the HR processes. I think they have to be very clearly defined, they have to be transparent, and you have, if any kind of such inhibition, your legal documentation aspect has to be very strong. I'm talking from a different context. I mean, you can have a 2-year bond, you can have some kind of processes in place, and also if somebody wants to go, as Kavita said, let them go. Find changes for the better most of the times, and also your recruitment process when you're hiring, you have to be very clear while talking to a person that why do you want to get onto this. Fine. So whether it's the money, whether it's the profile, whether it's just to keep yourself busy. And one lady, when she came out for one of the interviews, and was asked that why do you want to get into teaching? So here I'll not be talking about the Howard Gardner's theory of. So she says, I want to remain away from my mother-in-law for a few hours at least. So that's why I want to get into teaching.
We'll not be able to take all the questions because then we'll miss the most important session of the day, which is called lunch break. But there are certain questions, I'm kind of clubbing them up. Teachers, those who are working for many years and are the pillars of school, but the challenge is acceptability and upskilling themselves. How do we deal with such teachers? What if the teacher we allow to grow end up starting a school next to us and becomes a competitor? As you said, do need analysis for teachers, mentor your team, don't search. But we do all this and train them extremely good, but they jump easily to next school going. So what will all this knowledge go? Over to you, sir.
I will answer this a little indirectly now, and then maybe the other panelists can answer it directly as well. The organization that I first worked in as a founding CEO, and we were into franchising like I mentioned, we would have a lot of school owners come into this campus to learn. And the chairman would tell us, show them everything. And we had, I don't want to name people, but almost everybody who got into franchising came to this organization because we were early players in this, and they would come and see what we are doing. And we were told, explain everything to them. And at some point, I went and spoke to the chairman and I said, what are you doing? We're going to give away all our USPs and secrets. And he said, I didn't come into this field to support a few children. If these people who come to our school go back and implement even half of what they've heard here, so many more learners will get impacted. And then he turned around, looked at me and said, I didn't hire you to write down yesterday's USPs. It's your job to create new USPs every single day. Oh, wow. So you'll be ahead of everybody else. That was a great learning that I took from that people will leave, like they rightly said, as long as they become good ambassadors for your school, you're enabling the entire ecosystem to rise. And as long as you keep enabling teachers, you will never have a shortage. And like Dr. Hari said earlier, a teacher's stickiness with a school may have been 30 years. Today, if a teacher is with you for 3 years, you've done a fab job. You've done a fab job.
So, two things here. In the early years, when people would leave and, like I heard, start off on their own after having learned from you, it used to hurt me, not my parents, especially my dad. He is the founder chairman, and I think I'm grateful for their vision, their commitment, their faithfulness, because in what he said, and he lives, I have learned this. He looked at me and said, people will be people will be people. But you focus on the vision ahead of us, because there's a lot of work to be done. And I'm so glad I'm so glad we are here together to learn from and with each other. And I like what your chairman said, because that's exactly visionaries are about. That is who they are. He said, if they go, they can only give how much they've learned. But you got to add to your learning every day and give of yourselves more. Because in doing that, more learners will be affected, impacted by us walking the talk. If you get distracted with every voice out there, you will forget where you have to head. And our vision is very clear. Ensuring that quality education is accessible to most in this country. He was very clear. With the second generation, of course, new shows opened up, more people wanted the group out there. And Ryan has done that. But the vision was, and continues to be, making holistic development in education, making who we are, taking that ecosystem as far and wide as you can, no matter how obscure it sounds, the names of the places, go in there, build, provide education, because at the end of it, the nation flourishes. And once the nation flourishes, you stand to gain as a people. So yeah, keep that perspective in mind. It hurts, of course it's going to hurt, but not more than one day. Move forward.
Very important. So I knew an intelligence officer, he was a major, and after a few years he met me again and he was still a major. So I asked him that, why you got promotion? He said, we in intelligence, we don't get promotions, but we can ensure the other person doesn't get promotion. So I mean, there always be people who don't want to grow. Like we offer leadership role to many teachers, fine, but many of them they don't want. They say add on to a lot of work, and I mean they're not keen on that. So having said that, I am proud to say today that at least 50 of our teachers, they are principal in various schools, and there's nothing like neighbors envy, owners pride. We take legitimate proud, and they are all, most of them, in fact, they're all in touch, and still if they have any problem, they'll get back to us. And still on every occasion, every festival. So what Sonal said, move on. I mean, and also, so also the fact we were talking about people and processes, I think here, if you have processes in place, we are talking of people's first, yes, of course, but you have processes in place, if you have very neatly and very cleanly defined KRAs, I think even if person goes and you have the ability to train them and transform them, even if there is a change, I mean, it should not impact the organization.
Himanshu, 2 minutes more. I'm not seeing Aarti ma'am here, but she was here a while back. In the tea break, she walked up to Snehal and said, I just want to say thank you, I started my career from Rayan. It's a wonderful feeling when people grow, go out, expand your vision. Long back there was a CNN debate or CNN interview with Aditya Vikram Birla and Mukesh Ambani as the respondents. And the anchor asked them, how do you compete with the other groups like Tata's? So Aditya Vikram, of course, had his own comments. And Mukesh Ambani said, it is not a question of how we compete with Tatas or Birlas, it's a question of how all of us compete with the rest of the world. So can your vision be larger than your organization? Two, I think what the panel is bringing out is, innovation is the key. Move on, moving ahead. There will be followers, great. Three, if you look at the history or even the geography of the schools now, there are a couple of schools in India who are providing the largest number of school principals. They haven't fallen behind. They're still doing extremely well. We have a serious HR problem at IIT. A lot of people leave, go on lien, resign, and come back. And come right back. Including Harish Chaudhary, I've gone out twice and come back. Including our, if I may say, Vice Chancellor JNU and Chairman UGC, come back. And they still want to be here. And that's a great feeling. So last question of the day, and one more thing. I was making some notes. You must have seen the advertisement of Himanshu, was it Mercedes, who complimented BMW on completing 100 years, saying that the first 30 years were very boring. Thank you for the competition. With competition, you improve. So allow competition to grow and stay one step ahead. And this is the last question, and I'll request Snehal and Anirudh to respond to it. second generation handover challenges faced.
I think Snehal will agree with me, especially the people who've been into the system for a long time. So there are, mainly three categories of people in the organization. One who are a little stubborn, who don't want to change and who are very resistant to change. Another are, kind of quite enthused people. They're very enthusiastic, okay, like this is changing. And third people, what we also call them as a different carriers. They don't bother. Their job is to come in the morning and go in the afternoon. Fine. So they're all genres, all categories. But, it seems like, as I said, grass on the other side looks greener. It seems like it's awesome to be born with a silver spoon. But I think it's greatly challenging. The kind of responsibility, the kind of weight on your shoulders, it has, carrying on the legacy, taking it forward, it's enormous actually. And there are few benefits also, it's both pros and cons, but to reform, to transform, especially the institutions who've been into operations for a long time, it's not easy. So it's always challenging and you have to tread very cautiously. You have to, whatever changes or transformations you want to bring in, they have to be very well thought of. You have to take people into confidence without implementing and resorting to those. You have to be very logical and you have to, not by virtue of your position or your designation, by virtue of the logic, by virtue of the value and the intellectual aspect, what you bring to the table. So there will always be a section of them who will be resistant to change. Irrespective of notwithstanding whatever great idea you bring to the table. And as I said, there'll be people, who don't bother, but there'll always be that recognition of the talent that yes, these are the people who can drive and they help you in bringing those transformations.
It's almost lunchtime. Okay, just a quick one. I think for me, and actually for my siblings and me, one of the key qualities in the second generation transition has been the humility to listen and the authenticity to live the way you have watched your parents do the right thing. The authenticity counts because whether you want it or not, you're always on the radar, you're always under scrutiny. But don't do it because of fear of people. Do it because it's the right thing to do. You honor, the Bible says honor your parents. For us, it's about honor, it's about respect. And more than really, like amongst all the categories of people and everything, I think when they see that you mean well and you are not lording it over them, people recognize hypocrisy. They recognize when you're genuine and when you're being authentic and when you're not. And when you are consistently doing the right thing in the fear of God, wanting people along with you, it starts really with, for me, it really is about compassion. You've got to be together. There was a time where a certain leadership style worked. That's not going to work now. And that's why I'm grateful that we are an evolving ecosystem. We are a community of learners that is seeking to adapt, be agile, change, learn, and keep moving forward. Consultative leadership is definitely a feature of our times now. Why? Because I would do well in the wisdom of many. So the ones who have been there in the system know the culture, but they are not a part of the furniture. They have added value. I respect that. And I want to take from that. And I want to, with the new ones, along with me, learn and step into those shoes. Because the generation now has ambition, has enterprise. But experience is what is going to take us going forward. That comes from the generation gone ahead of you. And if you don't know how to honor and value that, I'm not saying you have to necessarily emulate what they did, but learn to honor wisdom and experience. Take from that. Take the wisdom from there. You may have your own style of leadership, but do not stop listening, watching, and doing. I wish you all well. It's about lunchtime, and just because this is the month of Christmas and it's a season of joy, I wish you all, on behalf of the family and all of us, really a very blessed Christmas and a very wonderful New Year.
So Himanshu has closed the session with my comments. Two quick ones. There's a haiku in Japanese. If age could, if youth would. To the question, second generation challenges. One of my students, a brilliant student from our department, has just submitted a PhD thesis with me, has submitted a synopsis on longevity of corporate entities, and she studied global and Indian companies which have lasted more than 50 years. And our one very clear finding is service leadership. Leadership with a sense of service. My father told me when I was in class 5 and stayed with me, लाए हैं इस नैया को भंवर से निकाल के रखना इसको बड़े बच्चों संभाल के. If you can bring that into your family culture, the rest is easy. We'll stop here and so there's an announcement to make.
Mementos for the and just
accountant, company secretary, auditing schools, the best schools of the country, and he'll be taking the session on legal aspects, statutory aspects, financial management, taxation, etc. Very important session. So Anirudh is saying they have lunch with you.
This is what happens when you don't allow the sound guy to go for lunch. Sir, can you please give mementos to Dr. Anirudh, Dr. Snehal, and Dr. Kamal? Thank you, everyone.
Right?
1000 dialects.